aborting more than 1 of every 4 pregnancies, creating human clones, eliminating our elderly with euthanasia. Is this how we should deal with human life? Find out how you can make a difference in changing our culture in this edition of Life Matters. Brian Johnston is the Western Director of the National Right to Life Committee. He has served in many capacities while advocating for innocent lives, as California Commissioner on Aging, as Chairman of the California Pro-Life Council, on the board of the National Legal Center for the Medically Dependent and Disabled. And now here's our host, Brian Johnston.
Well, welcome back to Life Matters. We're your program on life, the right to life, on culture, and on the very real battle of ideas. You know, so much of what goes on in our culture is influenced by ideas, by the ideas that you have about those things, about the words that are used to express an idea, and sometimes those words are intentionally misleading. They're meant to mislead you and to mislead your loved ones. Today on Life Matters, we're going to talk about the legislature and the fact that laws are made by people that you elect. Every 2 years, there's elections in our nation, and that's when you get a chance to hire someone to make laws for you. If you don't pay attention to the work they're doing for you, to the laws that they're proposing, well, that's your responsibility. And if you don't get rid of someone you've hired when they consistently make bad laws, then you're not fulfilling your responsibility. It's a great gift. You live in one of the greatest nations on earth because you have the ability to influence your own laws, and you'll be held responsible for that. You can't point your fingers at others. You're going to have to take up that burden of paying attention to the ideas and the battle of ideas in which we're in. We're recording today's program in January. And as you know, in the Right to Life movement, that's the time of year when pro-lifers, they honor those who died ever since the passage of the Roe v. Wade decision. This is not a celebration of that decision. This is a mourning. And in fact, it's a demand that we look at the ideas that have allowed that. You see, the March for Life in Washington, D.C. is there for a very specific reason. Because you, as a citizen, you've been given a great privilege that other nations don't have. You can redress the government for grievances. Even though they make the laws, you can say, wait a second, this isn't a just law. Ever since the Roe v. Wade decision in 1973, every year pro-life individuals have gone to Washington, D.C. to say, this must not stand. You see, the Roe v. Wade decision, while it supposedly dealt with the laws of Texas, it was actually used to strike down the laws of every state in the nation. Literally every state, even California and New York, which had, quote, liberalized abortion laws. But those states still had laws that said, no, you can't kill that kid after a certain age. And if you kill the child before that age, you need to have very specific reasons, because this is very serious. You're taking a human life. Those laws were there for a reason. They were all struck down by Roe v. Wade. So that's why we gather on these anniversaries, is to demand that the laws once again protect those that can't protect themselves. That's the idea. That's the idea of living in civilization. In government, government is there so that we can have protection from those who might harm us. And particularly, the weaker we are, the more we're going to need protection. That's true of babies in the womb. It's also true of the sick, of the elderly, of the dependent. In many societies, they're simply killed. We saw where Western civilization has done that before in Germany. That's why the Nuremberg trials held accountable the change in those laws that allowed Germans to kill their fellow citizens. Those trials did not take place because of the war, because of the battles against France or Belgium or Poland. That happens in all wars. What was different in World War II was that Germans actually were killing their own innocent citizens, innocent Germans. So that crime against humanity was a proclamation that that is not what Western civilization does. A very important thing. Your nation is now doing it. What are you going to say? Are you going to be silent? It's important that we remember the Roe v. Wade anniversary and that we demand legal protection for those who can't protect themselves. If you're in California, there's several events throughout the state, throughout January and February, to help memorialize and to organize so that we can have good pro-life laws. So go to californiaprolife.org, find out about the various walks for life. There are other civic events in smaller cities. Go to those events locally. Remember, this is a global issue, you might say. It's about will human beings be protected? But this is an issue that's impacted locally. We're going to talk in a bit. We're going to join Senator Mike Morrell, an old friend of the pro-life movement, and we'll talk about some of the things that you can do. One of the things that Senator Morrell brings up is the issue of government finance of the abortion industry. And I have found that there's many pro-lifers who don't understand that the abortion movement is actually government financed. That's right, that while pro-abortion and pro-choice advocates will use language like hands off my body, get the government out of abortion, in reality, it is the government that's promoting abortion. The ideas, remember, you're in a battle of ideas, the idea that abortion is a good thing. Planned Parenthood gets millions of dollars to promote these ideas, but also to perform the abortion, to advertise to the young pregnant women. That's the government money. That's your money being used. If the government were to pull out of the abortion industry, in many ways, it would wither on the vine. It would dry up. That's your tax money. You've got to know about that, and you've got to demand from your legislators that your money not go into this industry. Go to californiaprolife.org and find out more about getting the government out of the abortion industry. We also want to give you a heads up, this being an election year. This is a year you can do something about this, but you need to plan now. So make sure that you find out the resources you can use in your community to get involved, to find out about school board races. It's the school boards that can release kids secretly for abortion. They make that decision. You need to elect school board members that are going to say, no, we're not going to release these children without parents' consent to Planned Parenthood. The only way to do that is to elect good pro-life school board members. Do that this year. Get involved. We'll give you the tools. On the supervisor level, counties actually fund Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry. Cities often fund these industries. So local impact is very important, and you can make an impact there. Finally, if you'd like to be a pro-life speaker in your community, we can train you on how to do that as well. So make sure that you recognize people are all engaged in this battle of ideas. Some have gotten the wrong ideas. They need to understand. You need to be able to explain to these people what that good and right role is for them. You have been given a sound mind. You need to use it. You need to be bold and clarify who that is in the womb, the uniqueness. Science tells us that every child is unique. Science tells us that. I didn't make it up. That's a genetically unique human being. They have fingerprints. Every child that's killed in an abortion has a beating human heart. Why is it that people don't know that? Because they've not been told. So you can help educate your community. Come to the website, californiaprolife.org, and find out how you can change your community.
Life Matters continues after this.
Power.
You're pro-life and you want to defend your position, but you're not sure what to say. That's pretty common. So get the facts you need to back up your pro-life position with the Power of 7 app. The Power of 7 gives you effective pro-life replies to 7 of the most common pro-abortion arguments. It's simple, it's easy to use, and it's free.
Power of 7.
Download it now at thepowerof7.org. The Power of 7, the number 7.org.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters, your program on life, on culture, and the very real battle of ideas. And you and I know what laws are. Those are just ideas that are enforced. And speaking of that, I'm actually in the office of Senator Mike Morrell, a longtime pro-life hero from Southern California. And Mike has been dealing with some of the pro-life bills here in Sacramento for at least 7 years. And we want to talk a little bit. We'll talk about one bill moving through the legislature right now, but I also want to talk about the issue itself and how to be effective in impacting the process. Senator Morrell, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here. Like your radio show.
Actually, Mike and I go way back.
High school.
We went back to high school, and I'm not going to tell you which of us is older. We were not in the same class, but we went to the same high school years ago.
But he took 7 years to get through high school.
So Senator Morrell has been at the state capitol, and those of you who follow state politics know that you have to fight in Sacramento because there is a Democrat majority, and at times it's been a supermajority, which means they can do whatever they want. That doesn't stop us, though. If you're pro-life, you don't stop because somebody opposes you. If you're standing for what's right, you need to keep standing. As Winston Churchill said, when you're going through hell, keep going. In fact, Senator Morrell invoked Churchill earlier today. Again, we're sitting in his office, so please forgive the sound.
Yeah. 1941, few believe that Churchill in Great Britain would win World War II against the Nazis. Even FDR, our president at the time, was hesitant to sell him destroyers because Great Britain was outmanned, outgunned, artillery about 3-1 by the Nazis. But Churchill says this as he reminds the British people. He says, when great causes are on the move in the world, stirring all men's souls, drawing them from their firesides, casting aside comfort, wealth, and the pursuit of happiness, he says, we learn that we are spirits, not animals, and that there is something going on in space and time and beyond space and time, which spells duty. What he said means is we don't know what Providence is ever doing. Perhaps good, perhaps bad, but at the end of the day, it's always ours for duty.
What are some basic principles, Senator, that folks should realize as they look at getting involved in the political realm?
Well, Aristotle said that politics is just simply putting people in place, telling us how to live our lives. And so one of the reasons I ran is I didn't care for a lot of the people who were voting and representing my interests. And so that's one reason I decided to run, is to work to try to institute laws that protect people and limit government's power. And so what we have today, we sort of do have a constitutional crisis. Many people have advocated their civic responsibility of voting, and yet when this country was founded, that was considered to be a gift of God, because that's the first time in human history where we had the ability to elect our own leaders to represent our interests. Before that, we were ruled by the divine rights of kings and dictators. And so, again, it is a gift of God. So we have to vote, and we have to vote intelligently. It's funny. Politicians, if they go to a union meeting, many of them will speak in unionese. If they go to a church, they'll speak in Christianese. Every single politician up here says they're pro-business, but what we have to look is their voting record. I know over half of the politicians here raise taxes on business and do everything they can to handcuff them, and it's one of the reasons we've had a couple of thousand businesses leave over the last 10 years. So we really have to, again, exercise that civic responsibility and not just listen to what politicians say, but really see how they voted, because we need to change our state, and we do that by upgrading the people we send who represent our interests. And remember, they have the power over our lives to tell us how much of our money we can keep. Most of these bills up here have to do with immoral things, such as taking away life. They tell us how to raise and educate our children. Why would we put our children, our money, our finances, and our lives and morality and the questions on life and God in the hands of people who are contrary in thinking to those things? So it's very important we engage, and it's the only way we're going to win is when good people start getting engaged in voting for the right people. So that would be the number one principle that I'd like to share with you guys to do is take this very serious. There's only 40 state senators in California, and we control the lives of 40 million people. That's a lot of power in the hands of a few, which is a very dangerous thing, but can be a very good thing when good people start to vote properly.
Yes. I want to remind you, as Senator Morrell said, this is an election year, and it isn't just for the state Senate. There are many races all the way down the ballot where you can have the most effect, actually. It's on your local school board race. You should get the questionnaires for local school board candidates from the California Pro-Life Council. Find out before the election, are they going to have Planned Parenthood come in to talk to your kids? Are they going to release kids secretly to have an abortion? Do you know that school boards determine that? How could you possibly vote for someone for school board not knowing what they're going to do with that position? That's a local position. that you can impact. So I want to urge you, go to californiaprolife.org. That's californiaprolife.org. It's the state affiliate of the National Right to Life Committee. Get involved locally. That's where you can make a real impact. Get the information out to your friends. We'll show you how to do that. That's californiaprolife.org. But as I said, we're actually part of the national effort. The National Right to Life is concerned about here in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C., because those decisions impact the whole nation. So go to nrlc.org and find out more about the upcoming elections. We have some federal elections that are going on across the state. When people vote for Congress, that impacts not just locally, but the whole nation. Get informed and get involved. We'll be right back. We'll talk with Senator Morrell more right after this.
You're listening to Life Matters.
This is an important update on Senate Bill 320. Senate Bill 320 would mandate that in California state colleges and universities, young women be given RU-486, the abortifacient drug. This is not a morning after pill. This drug is only taken when the woman knows that she's pregnant and the child is well along. It attacks the woman's body first by preventing it from giving any more nutrition to that child. Only then does the child die, and it results in a spontaneous miscarriage when that young woman can least control the situation. She sees the baby. She sees the clots of blood that come. It's extremely unpleasant. Once a woman has had this, she does not want another one, but your tax money would pay for it. Ask your state senators to vote no on Senate Bill 320.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters, for your program on life, on culture, and the very real battle of ideas. And if you don't realize there's a battle for ideas, you've lost, because the battle's for your mind and the minds of your loved ones. So you have to be thinking deeply. Just don't believe what someone tells you on television and even on the radio. Think deeply about what these ideas really mean, what the words really mean. We just came from a hearing where Senator Pan, who is actually, he's a child doctor. He's one of Planned Parenthood's big supporters here. He made a point of twisting language and refusing to use actual language. And you know this, on the issue of abortion, they talk about reproductive rights. There's nothing reproductive in an abortion. It's the exact opposite. As Orwell tells you in 1984, usually when they use funny words like that in government, it usually means the exact opposite. They talk about abortion as terminating a pregnancy. But when your mom birthed you, she terminated that pregnancy. Birth terminates a pregnancy. No, there's much more than terminating a pregnancy. When they describe what they're doing, they don't like it. They can't bring themselves to say it. And we saw it in this hearing. They hated the description of the child. They hated the description of the chemical abortion that happens in RU-46. That bill is moving forward now in the Senate, and it's going to be going to the Senate floor. We fully expect that. How can folks effectively be involved in opposing RU-46?
Well, you have to be involved. You have to call your state senator and your assembly members. So you need to look up on the internet, just Google who your state senator is, put the city you live in, and call his or her district office as well as their Sacramento office and tell them who you are, how many people are in your family, and try to get your friends and neighbors to do the same, because Ronald Reagan once said that if you can't make the politicians see the light, make them feel the heat. And one thing, when offices start getting 300 to 400 calls, these guys will. One thing I have to say about politicians for the most part is I believe they live in fear. And so they will fear the voters if they think they'll be outraged. But, you know, sadly, the first country in the history of the world to have freedom is the United States of America. First country to be able to have religious rights, religious freedom, property rights, freedom of speech, and the right to vote and elect our own leaders is America. And too often we take that for granted. We need, again, to actively engage in a fight for our country and for these things that are wrong before the Almighty. And so we need you to call your state senators and your assembly members and where you live and express that you're against this bill to provide abortions to college girls and free abortion pills and whatever else it is. And remember, all at taxpayers' expense. And that perhaps is even more offensive to me, that we do so many things today at taxpayers' expense. And California is one of the highest tax states already, and they keep adding taxes, burdening families, and so this is not efficient and effective use of taxpayers' money. So please get involved with this and make it a point every day to be involved and read up what's going here. Go to my website, just link me up on Senator Mike Morrell, and you can just Google and you'll see what our website is, and we have a lot of good information on there. Thank you guys for listening so far.
Thank you, Senator, so much. When we go to the break, you'll hear the action alert on SB 320. That's Senate Bill 320. You'll get the instructions on what to do. We'll join Senator Morrell another time. Again, he's been a pro-life hero up here in Sacramento and is fighting for those that can't defend themselves. So thank you again, Senator. Today, we're at that portion of our program we call Wordsworth. You know, just like at a baseball game, you can't know the players without a program. And so it is in the battle of ideas. Unless you actually understand the meaning of the words being used, you can come to very wrong conclusions about those ideas. Today is going to be a word you're all familiar with, and that's the word choice. Choice is often used by abortion advocates as a term to symbolize abortion and to represent abortion, but it doesn't talk about abortion. In fact, it specifically does not refer to the abortion itself or the act itself or what happens in an abortion. It's what's known as reification in semantics. It's making it a different thing from the Latin rei, thing. And so it changes entirely the meaning of the debate and the meaning of the context in which it exists. As you know, choice refers to the option of making a decision, but what's very important is what is that decision? The question needs to be, what is it that's being decided? If the law says I can't steal my neighbor's car and I desire my neighbor's Cadillac, well, that choice has been denied me. I have had my choice denied. In fact, most of society, if you think about it for any length of time, there are many choices that we deny people in society, and for very, very good reason. Before 1973, aborting human babies in the U.S. was a decision that the laws and society thought was very, very dangerous and very bad, obviously for the child, but also the mother. Another time we'll go into the history of how those laws got there. But right now we're talking about choice and what it really means. So one of the things we have to look at is in the word choice, you need to make sure if you're being confronted in a situation that, well, I'm pro-choice, or you're just anti-choice. Well, choice for what? You know, choice is used referring to school choice. Maybe you favor school choice. Perhaps you'd like to send your kids to a school of your choosing and not to the government schools. Well, then you're pro-choice, aren't you? And so it's really a discussion about abortion, and make sure that you remind your interlocutor, the person you're talking to, that the specific is about abortion. Here's the other real danger you'll find in this battle of ideas when people don't think about the meaning of words and they'll start using the words in this battle. And in so doing, they surrender. And that is when a friend of yours, an acquaintance, someone you know should have better sense, and they say, yeah, well, you know, I'm pro-choice. And you ask them, well, why? And they say, well, what if there's rape? Or what if there's incest? Or what if there's some problem? I think we should have abortion for those circumstances. Well, you know what? They're not really pro-choice, because they're outlining, and the radical feminist movement has outlined this many places, they're outlining the reasons they think there should be abortions. But if you're limiting abortion, then in the eyes of feminists, you're not really pro-choice. They want to have abortion legal for any reason or no reason in particular, just for choosing it. It doesn't need to be justified in the minds of abortion advocates. There's no need to justify the abortion. I just want to choose it. That's what's meant by choice, that there be no limit to abortion. So your friend might say, oh, I'm pro-choice, But they're thinking of very narrow reasons. If you take abortion for rape, for incest, for life of the mother, for severe fetal deformity, the normal litany of hard cases, that accounts for relatively few abortions that take place, less than 2%. The vast majority of abortions are done for social reasons. They're done because somebody just wants it or feels pressured by somebody else, usually. But it's not being done for the hard cases that we always hear about. And so someone like Jerry Brown, for example, the governor of California, he's pro-choice. There's not a single abortion he's willing to say should be restricted. Late-term abortion. They will not allow restrictions on late-term abortion because now you're restricting those abortions. When you have to give a reason for an abortion, believe it or not, you're not being pro-choice. You're giving reasons for justifying the abortion. So it isn't just that choice is being used to misrepresent. It's being used to justify unlimited abortion at any time, for any reason, or no reason in particular. So it's very important that you understand in this battle of ideas, when you're talking about abortion, to use the term choice, it carries with it a whole world of meaning that's being used to justify things that you may not agree with. And it's very important to clarify and bring clarity to the true meaning of the word. And that's choice for today. Other days we'll talk about a lot of these other terms that are intentionally misused in order to get people to come to conclusions they normally wouldn't come to. By the way, if you want to call in, if you have some suggestions on terms we should talk about, or if you have questions, please call our 800 number and we'll get your questions up on our program. That's 800-924-2490, 800-924-2490. Life Matters exists to equip you. It's actually not just about the abortion issue. Life Matters is about life itself and your role in protecting life and, in fact, enjoying life. If you're not speaking up for others and there's something going wrong, you're not going to enjoy life. We want to help you understand why you should care about the issues of life, how you can normally and effectively speak up for those who can't speak for themselves. Our job is to equip you for this battle of ideas and for standing for the culture of life. Again, call us at 800-924-2490 if you have any questions, and thanks again.
Learn more about everything in today's show online at lifematters.life, where you'll find all the resources you need to protect life. Life Matters is a production of the California Pro-Life Council, the state affiliate of National Right to Life. Wherever you are in the nation, you can find out more at National Right to Life. You can find vital pro-life information and also find the access to your state and local Right to Life affiliate. Get informed and get involved.